Hello, everyone, and welcome to the regularly scheduled board meeting on 11 July 2022. We appreciate everyone being here, and we will go ahead and get started. As you probably know, we have Kathy McVeigh filling in for Madam Superintendent, who's out on vacation. So we'll start with a roll call. Mr. Pendleton?
Dr. Akbar?
Here.
Ms. Autry?
Here.
Dr. Hall?
Aye.
Mrs. McKittrick?
Here.
Mr. Perry?
I'm here.
Thank you.
And if you're able, we will stand now for the Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll ask Dr. Hall to lead us.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. We now will move to community and school reflections. Any board members have any? Ms. Autry, and then Mr. Perry.
Thank you, Mr. President. So since we last met, I had the opportunity to visit the food drive at Jennings CLC. We had a presentation at our last board meeting from those students. And so I was able to attend that along with Mr. Alexander as well. And I just wanted to give a thank you and congratulations to Allison Strickland, who's the coordinator of the Path to High School Success, along with the rest of her team. They did a really good job with those young people over there at Jennings. They were able to collect a lot of canned goods and food. I'm not sure what the final count was, but a special thanks out to Allison, Ms. Strickland, and her team of folks. And also, Mr. President, if you would allow me just this quick, brief liberty, I just wanted to acknowledge the life of Jalen Walker, as I was the PTA president back in 2015 when he was a student at Buchtel. And I just wanted to acknowledge his life and from the people and the viewpoint of the folks who knew him, his teachers, his principal, his counselors, his coaches, all loved this young man. He was a kind, gentle young man. Despite the circumstances surrounding his life, and how it ended, I just wanted to take this liberty because I'm here at this table right now to acknowledge his life and to also send my condolences to his family and loved ones. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Autry. Mr. Perry.
So I'll just follow up with that. I certainly want to jump on the back of what Ms. Aldridge just said there, and my condolences to the family of Jalen Walker and what they're going through, and hopefully this all gets investigated properly and dealt with accordingly. But I was at Litchfield Middle School last week, and I wanted to give a shout out to Coach Carter and all of the Litchfield Middle School football team. I was there. My son is going in the 7th grade, and he was out there with them playing quarterback. And when you see young men practicing football and learning from their coaches, it's more than just learning the game of football. It's life lessons. The coach is giving them advice on things they should be doing in their lives, things they should and should not do with their spare time. And so I was able to overhear some of that. And it just means a lot to me that he's able to, have these young men there and to teach them things, not just the game of football. So I do want to commemorate him and all the staff at Litchfield Middle School for what they're doing with the young man playing football. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Right here.
Dr. Hall?
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted just a quick sort of public service announcement. I've gotten some emails from folks in the Firestone Park area and from some other Garfield alumni asking about public tours of the new building. And Ms. Folk was kind enough to share with me some details. Let me just put them out. That there will be a public ribbon cutting and public tours on August 27th, starting at 1 p.m. So again, want to share that out there too. Hopefully, those of you in the room will come out because it really is a beautiful building. And a lot of work has gone into and a lot of pride in that building as well. So tell your friends. Again, August 27th at 1 p.m. is the Garfield High School public reintroduction, and I know I will be there. Looking forward to seeing all of you there as well. So thank you for the time.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? All right, hearing and seeing none, we will now move to requests to address the board. As we don't have any today, we will move to approval of the previous meeting minutes from the regular scheduled meetings on Monday, June 27, 2022, as well as the special meeting on 27 June 2022. Is there a motion on the table?
I so move.
Second.
It's been properly moved by Mr. Perry and seconded by Dr. Hall. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call vote, please. Mr. Pendleton?
Dr. Hall,
Aye.
Mrs. McKittrick,
Yes.
Dr. Akbar,
Yes.
Ms. Autry,
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We now move to personnel recommendations. Mrs. McVeigh.
Good evening. Tonight, I wish to recommend approval of the personnel recommendations presented in categories 5 through 16. They're in proper format, and I move for their approval. But before that, I would like to make a brief introduction. Keith Lichty, if you could just stand where you're at. Keith Lichty tonight is being recommended for our Director of School Improvement, replacing Kenya Harrington, who recently resigned. He's been employed with the district since 1990, has served in many roles. His most recent and current role is the coordinator of expanded learning. He has many years of experience in the school improvement office, having worked in that department for a number of years and previously served as interim director. So congratulations, Keith. He can if he likes. Try not to do that.
Keith, a few words, Keith, please. Just
I'm sorry, if you don't mind going to the mic.
Come on up
please.
here.
Right there. Just
we give everybody else a chance to speak. So,
I will definitely keep it very brief. I just want to say thank you to the board. Thank you to the superintendent. I know she's not here today, for the faith in me. Everything that got me to this is due to the people around this room. I have learned from every single one of you in one way or another that has helped me build my career and all these wonderful opportunities here. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Does that conclude that section? All right, thank you very much. So the personal recommendations have been properly requested of us. Is there a motion on the table?
so moved.
It's been properly moved by Dr. Hall. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Autry. Any discussion on the personnel recommendations? Hearing and seeing none, roll call vote, please, Mr. Pendleton.
Dr. Hall,
Aye.
Mrs. McKittrick,
No.
Dr. Akbar,
Yes.
Ms. Autry,
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We now move to resolutions and motions on the consent agenda. Mrs. McVeigh.
I wish to recommend approval of the resolutions and motions presented in Category 22. They are in proper format, and I move their approval.
Thank you very much. The resolutions and motions have been properly recommended. Is there a motion on the table?
So moved.
It's been moved by Mrs. McKittrick. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Perry. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing, seeing none, roll call vote, please. Mr. Pendleton.
Mrs. McKittrick,
Yes.
Dr. Akbar,
Yes.
Ms. Autry,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Dr. Hall.
Abstain on 23.2. But yes.
Yes on all. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We now move to business affairs recommendation. Mrs. McVeigh.
I wish to recommend approval of the business affairs recommendations presented in Category 23. They are in proper format, and I move their approval.
Thank you very much. Been properly recommended for the business affairs recommendations. Is there a motion on the table?
I so move.
It's been moved properly by Mr. Perry. Is there a second? Is there a second? There's been seconded by Dr. Hall. Is there any discussion on that motion?
This is the item I'll be abstaining on, is a 23.2 in this section, as opposed to my erroneous comment made on the last go-around. So apologies, Mr. Pendleton.
Record duly noted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other discussion? Hearing, seeing none, we'll do roll call vote, please. Mr. Pendleton.
Mrs. McKittrick,
No.
Dr. Akbar,
Yes.
Ms. Autry,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Dr. Hall,
Aye.
with abstention.
Abstention on 23.2.
23.2. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We now move to Superintendent's report. Mrs. McVeigh.
Thank you. I have no report.
Thank you very much. We now move to President's report. I wanted to first echo what Ms. Autry and Mr. Perry shared about one of our alum and how we definitely are praying for that family and the community as he grew up through this system and with our community. Secondly, I also was able to participate but not attend the food drive, and I just wanted to also commend Mrs. Strickland for their work and all the great things that are happening. With that being said, there's also some great summer programming happening in this district. And I know we should have received an email with some dates coming up. So hopefully we'll be able to take advantage of attending some of those programming that's out there. The last thing for my report is should have been something perfunctory, but I wanted just to announce publicly that the board has completed the superintendent's evaluation. Unfortunately, a personnel matter, which the board intended and still intends to remain between it and its employee, has become a public matter of discussion. Our board does not speak publicly about personnel matters. And so to clear up some misconceptions, this board, nor do I speak or seek to publish the evaluation publicly, and it's never sought to do so in that manner. An evaluation is a tool that we use to strengthen the district and better align the board's vision and goals. And our process for evaluations allows each board member to share their individual assessments based on their level of engagement. After each of us provide our assessments, we collectively have a conversation, and together a conversation will continue. No one is perfect or above reproach, and I'm personally always reflective and am able to admit where I could improve. So in hindsight, I could have written alternative language in the evaluation to share my assessments. We all are accountable for our actions and our individual inactions. While we followed the same process of evaluating our employees as we have in the past, for whatever reason, there was a need to publish this one. As a board, we intend to remain ever focused on ensuring every student, regardless of what zip code they reside, receives the highest quality education. Equity continues to be our perennial driving priority for all that we do. And that means that we provide every student what they need when they need it. This board continues to maintain our focus on our children and the sustainability of this district as we persist towards charting our path forward. And with that, that concludes my report. Any other questions or any questions for me? Here, Ms. Autry.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm not sure who can answer this. This is actually regarding the summer school. I know we got numbers on the registrations and enrollment. So my question is, how many actual available seats are there? Because I thought I heard a number 10,000.
Yeah, that's what was last reported to us, 10,000.
So there's 10,000 individual seats for summer school available?
Yeah, so this was a question that was posed to Ms. Tecca, and I think she's probably working on follow-up, because I too had the similar question, and I know it was raised at the last board meeting, and I know we raised the question again on Friday to try to get some clarity around that. So
we did get a response,
yeah.
But it said 39,
Correct.
75 unique students.
Yep.
For 9,500 registrations. So I was just wondering, are there 500 registrations still available, or does that mean we have 6,000 almost? So that's my question.
Yep.
Got it. Okay. We will note that and ensure that we get
So we can fall back
an answer for the board there.
too. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions?
But do appreciate her response.
Yes.
So
Thank you. With that being said, we'll move to our treasurer's report.
No report.
There's no report. We will move to committee reports, legal contracts and board policy. Okay, no report. Thank you, Mrs. McKittrick. Next, finance and capital management, Ms. Autry.
There's no report.
Thank you very much. Instructional policy and student achievement,
No
Ms.
report.
Mrs. McKittrick. Thank you very much. No report. Equity committee, Dr. Hall.
No report.
Thank you very much. And we will now move to new business, ESSER priorities and funding discussion. We receive some updated information about the ESSER priorities and that funding. As you all know, that's been a conversation we've had, and with so much of the funding, federal funding, unprecedented coming before us, it's important that this board has the opportunity to weigh in on that process. And so we have received that information in our emails. So I just wanted to open the floor up for the board to have a discussion around those priorities, as well as anything that we wanted to add to it. And this is the first of that discussion. As we know, we do have 2 board members not here, and so we do want to carry that conversation on to the next meeting as well. But wanted to give everyone an opportunity to start if there's any comments. And we can also choose to save that for when the superintendent is back. But any discussion on that?
Well, I think
Dr. Hall?
Well, I think if we're going to do this in 2 parts when other folks are back, I'd probably save my comments for them. That way they can hear it and respond in kind. So I do think it's worth mentioning that that part of the reason why we're having the conversation is because we wanted to make sure. So, as you recall, several board meetings ago, we were very intentional about soliciting teacher input, and there was, I believe that there was at least some effort made, to get said input, and so. And I know I'd gotten some emails, with some questions around, why didn't we see some of the written comments in the free form sections included in the feedback? And so, so for me, I know as we think about this moving forward, want to just make sure that we really do have a good firm grasp on our teachers in the district and sort of what their viewpoint is on the priorities, and also what new priorities or additional priorities they think that we should be thinking about, right? And so that's the first thing I would say. And then secondly, to respond to some of the questions I know I've gotten anyway, I think there was some confusion that was there because in board meetings, we were always discussing the ESSER priorities as though it was something that had not been decided, right? Something that was continuing to be discussed and tweaked and figured out. And then, at the last board meeting, which is what spawned the questions I got, was we showed a graphic that showed that $83 million of the $95 million had been committed already. And so folks understand, we were like, well, wait a minute. I thought that we were still working on tweaking this, and yet you guys just showed a graphic that said that $83 million of this money is already committed. So what is the point in providing feedback when you've already committed all but $8.9 million, right? And so I think those are fair questions and concerns. And so I think that for me, that's part of the reason why why I'm supportive of us having this discussion. And I think the one thing that I think needs to be pointed out and clarified is that, committed does not mean encumbered, right? So there are pots of money, and not to get into a granular discussion here, but there are varying pots of money that we can use to spend on varying programs and resources and things like that. And so there is an opportunity, should the public and should this board, in concert with its superintendent, elect to make some different, elect to change or alter some of those priorities. Those dollars are not already spent. They're just part of a plan. Hence the word commitment. But I didn't use the more technical term which would be encumbered, right? So they were encumbered. then there's no real walking this back, right? So, but the fact that we're using the word committed means that there is still room for us to have additional conversation to tweak, change, alter said plan and said priorities. And so I think it's important to kind of say all that, publicly, because I know that there are other entities that have been criticized for their lack of transparency and how they have made decisions about how ESSER funds or ARPA funds have been spent. So again, looking forward to having a public discourse around that, and want to make sure that we are getting input from our very important stakeholders. And I'm really fixating here on the teachers because I know we haven't necessarily gotten a response rate that is, I think, appropriately reflective. And so would want to continue to encourage our teachers and other staff members to be, to do more to respond. And so, and having said that, if there are additional creative ways that senior staff can think of, to further engage them, right? Because if we were talking about engaging parents and families and we had that kind of response rate, we would be saying, well, what can we do better? What other creative out-of-the-box ways can we think of to engage our parents and families, right? And so I think it's only fair that we employ the same level of creativity and innovation with respect to how do we engage our teachers. And so, because they are the ones who are in the classrooms every day doing the work, right? That's not us. And so, anyway, so, for what it's worth, I think that what I've seen from an ESSER priority and plan, I think it's a great start. I think there's a lot of really important concepts and ideas that we're talking about funding. But I want to make sure that that before we get to a point where we're using a word like encumbered for a majority of those funds, that we've finished the work around soliciting and getting constructive feedback, both positive and negative, from our key stakeholders. And so that will conclude my comment on this topic for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hall. Anyone else? Okay. Looks like no other board member has any comments. So the two areas that I wanted to just share or think about more is how do we bolster, our ability to support in those areas where we know students are falling through the gaps, and to be able to identify those and bolster those. One of the biggest challenges we are having, and we're seeing nationally as well, is teachers leaving the profession. And and not only teachers, but just the support staff as well, ed assistants, tutors, the entire support of what happens in the classroom. People are deciding to do other things. And so I would like for us to look at how do we be creative. I know I asked this question before. I'm not sure if the answer has been resolved, but it would be nice when we talk about or position the different initiatives, and we share how much ESSER funds are being allocated. Some of the amounts seem low for those type of opportunities. And I know that it was said that other funds can be used, and I think it'll be nice to see the total amount for some of these or all of these efforts. So, maybe adding a column that's not just ESSER, but other funding that supports that effort, so that we can kind of get a better sense of where our weight should be in collaboration. The other piece that I would like for us to figure out how do we do is support our families and our young people, as well as our staff. We've had a tremendous amount of mental health concerns, and are there some creative things we can do to build in more opportunities for our students and our families to get the support they need, so that they can be as whole as possible, and to really look at the I Promise School and some of those wraparound services that are offered there, and how we can use some of the ESSER funds to expand those services, but then also strategically look at how do we continue them after ESSER is over. So those are the main things I wanted to share today. And I think that as we look more broadly in our conversation, the next meeting, hopefully we can look at it from that whole picture and see all of the different funds and be able to talk through, where we're putting our priorities. So any other comments or questions from the board? And I appreciate at least this discussion. What I would encourage every board member to do is to go through the presentation again, and I know it was in Friday notes as well, and to share their priorities and any type of thoughts with our superintendent, and even with Derek and I as we continue to move forward, because I think that's going to be important so that we can get to a point where we can say that we all are good with the plan and moving forward in one direction, and feel like we've had, both big and small circles also have input that's actually in the plan. So with that being said, if there's no other comments on that new business item, we do have a need to recess into executive session. And so we will accept a motion to recess into executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 121.22G1 for the purposes of considering the employment, appointment, and discipline of a public employee or official, and G4 to prepare for negotiations. Is there a motion on the table?
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved by Mrs. McKittrick, seconded by Ms. Autry. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing and seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Pendleton?
Dr. Akbar,
Yes.
Ms. Autry,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Dr. Hall,
Aye.
Mrs. McKittrick.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We now stand in recess.